Number 2, squatter settlements have been popping up as urbanization has taken hold all over the world. Letter A, define a squatter settlement. A squatter settlement is where people who are suffering from poverty live. It's areas where there's no running water, where there's no sanitation, and everything that you see in this picture is a good example of a squatter settlement. Letter B, identify the average location of a squatter settlement of megacities on the global periphery. Generally, they're, number 1, on the edge of a city. Number 2, if they're not on the edge of the city, they're in a built area within the city that is built specifically for the purpose of housing these impoverished people. Number 3, they're in vacant or undesirable land, such as steep hillsides, floodplains, dumps, landfills, cemeteries, or very, very close to industries. And then number 4, they're generally on areas of land that do not have clear titles, where people are not sure who owns the land. Letter C, describe 3 things that create squatter settlements. Number 1, large-scale rural to urban migration, as these poor farmers are moving to the cities because either their land is bought up or the land is no longer fertile. When they do this in mass numbers, they don't have a lot of money, and so they're moving to the city in hopes of improving their life, but generally they end up in these squatter settlements. Number 2, poverty forms these, as mainly you have the primary and secondary type jobs in a lot of these countries. People can't get out of poverty. Additionally, people may get injured and may not be able to work, and because the government does not help these types of people, they may have no other choice but to live in squatter settlements. Number 3, lack of enough affordable housing, either public or private. People may not have the opportunity to buy affordable housing, and it may not be developed in the city. Number 4, lack of or failure to enforce land use policy. Maybe it's because of the government, because this is happening, because people are just moving in because nobody owns the land. Letter D, explain 3 negative aspects that come from the rapid growth of squatter settlements. I'm going to give you a lot. You just choose 3. 1 is the unhealthy living conditions that lead to high mortality rates in the squatter settlements because living in these areas is so dangerous. Number 2, you also have an increase in crime as the police do not manage this area. Number 3, development of gangs or other non-legal authority systems that use force to impose their rules. 4, development of political action or political unrest in these squatter settlements. 5, increased water pollution resulting from the lack of sanitation facilities and sewage systems in these areas. 6, increased soil erosion on hillsides as existing vegetation is removed to put these temporary houses. 7, decreased air quality resulting from fires used from cooking and heating in these settlements, which leads into the next one of deforestation as people are stripping away the forest to live in these areas. You also have visual pollution, and this picture is a good example of that. You also in these cities have an increase in the availability of cheap labor. You now have people who are willing to work for well below the minimum wage because they have nothing. You also have an increased risk of disasters such as fires, industrial accidents, mudslides, and flooding based on the settlement patterns in squatter settlements. And it's also a strain on the already inadequate infrastructure, such as water, electricity, education, sewage, fire protection, all of these resulting in an increased burden on the existing taxpayers.